بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We are still talking about treaties and agreements of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And we mentioned that those treaties and agreements are part of his project, the project of establishing peaceful coexistence, not only in Medina, the first Muslim state, not only in Arabian Peninsula, but in the entire world, as much as he could. Simply because his message, the message of the Prophet, peace be upon him, is the message of mercy, message of love, message of compassion, message of respect to all mankind, which has been actually described in many places in the Quran. So when we talk about his treaties or his agreements, we are talking about some sort of a practical reflection of his message, his relationship with individuals, societies, and states as well. And as we keep saying, the three fundamental values, justice, equality, freedom, were always there, have been reflected in every act of the Prophet, peace be upon him. But unfortunately, some historians, they start when they talk about the peaceful coexistence or how the Prophet, peace be upon him, was a man of peace, how his message was a message of spreading peace all over the world, they start to pick up and select certain incidents, certain battles taken out of the context and started to argue that, okay, this man who are you Muslims claim that he is a man of peace, he is not, because he started and initiated certain battles and wars in Arabia with his neighboring states, with people from Mecca, with some of Jewish tribes in Medina. And as we said, there are many misconceptions related to this issue. Anything, any incident, when you take it out of its context, then definitely you will get another result, which will never go with what we are saying here about peaceful coexistence. So if we look at the life and the Prophet, peace be upon him, we will see that within all his battles, when we look at these battles, we see them not to dominate. The Prophet, peace be upon him, did not try at all to dominate any other nation. Those battles and wars were not occurred in order to impose or to force people to turn to Islam. Because as we said, Islam is a faith just like any other faith. Faith is regulating your relationship with God. And this can't be used actually or imposed by force. Faith can't be imposed and filled by using force, no matter what, because it's a relation which comes from within, which should be based on belief, on reasoning, on some sort of recognizing this relationship. It can't be happen by using force at all, at any time, by any mean. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, was realizing this fact. That's why he did not at any time using force in order to turn people to Islam or make them leave their own faith and turn to Islam at all. And those battles which happened during his time, when we look at them, we see them as if they are in defensive nature. The Prophet, peace be upon him, did not initiate these wars or battles. He was the one in such situation which he was trying to defend whether the society which he belongs to or his estate in Medina, or to protect these three values: justice, freedom, and equality. Let us, for example, take Battle of Mu'tah. Battle of Mu'tah, which some historians, as I said, claimed that the Prophet, peace be upon him, initiated this battle in order to dominate the Roman nation. It took place because the king of Busra, which is part of the Roman Empire, killed the emissary of the Prophet, peace be upon him, sent in the year 8 after Hijrah, to invite them to Islam. The Prophet, peace be upon him, sent a man, ambassador, to deliver the message of Islam, to talk about Islam with them, to deliver his letter. So it was necessary. They killed the emissary of the Prophet, peace be upon him, which was totally unacceptable till today. It is known that according to the diplomatic activities and policy, ambassadors should never be killed or touched at any time or for any reason. But what happened that king of Busra killed that man who sent the letter to the Prophet, peace be upon him. It was necessary to resort to a defensive response from the Islamic State. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, was the head of the Islamic State in Medina. So here we don't see the matter of just initiating war or battle. No. In order to protect these three values, if he left it without any response, definitely things will be much worse. But here we see something different. The Prophet did not actually seek to antagonize the two great states of the time, but as a matter of fact, he sent his messengers to their kings and princes to advocate his call in peace. War did not, for example, start with the Persian and Roman armies until their rulers incited the Arab tribes in Iraq to invade Al-Hijaz, Arabia now. And they themselves actually started to prepare for military action against the Muslims. Why? Because those two states, they started to see the threat brought by the message of the Prophet, peace be upon him. They were, before the message of Islam, were understanding that everything was in their hands. But after the message of Islam, things started to change in Arabia. People started to change. No wars, no conflicts among Arabian tribes, and all these things definitely were not in the interests of the two great states of the time, Roman and Persian. So because of that, they started to prepare for military action using some of the Arab leaders in order to start wars against the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Muslims. The Prophet, of course, was able in a matter of a few years to transform the scene in Arabia, which has been very dark at that time before the message of Islam. And as we know that wars and conflict was always there. People in Arabia were suffering from all these wars for years. But the Prophet, peace be upon him, with the message of peace, he could within just a few years transformed Arabia to a stable state, a stable, unified tribes under one central government, if we may say. Of course, when we talk about central government, we are not talking about something definitely as much advanced as today, our time, but definitely when it comes to the factor of their time, it's quite advanced. Arabia did not know at all any sort of central government before the message of the Prophet. Later on, within a few years, he could transform Arabia to be under one central government. The new peace was the driver for much of the region's social and cultural transformation, which set the stage for the world leadership role which Muslims were soon to play. Without peace, without order, without security, no message can be flourished. No dialogue among nations can be started or initiated. So the peaceful coexistence among individuals, states, and societies was very important at that time. And starting agreements, treaties from the Prophet, peace be upon him, was very important, a continuous process to establish the peaceful coexistence and to start the real goal of conveying the message of the Quran and Islam. And we mentioned before that even the state of Al-Medina was suffering a lot before the arrival of the Prophet, peace be upon him, from conflict, from wars between Aus and Khazraj for years. The Jewish tribes as well were part of this conflict by one way or another. Everybody was exhausted from the conflict, from war, from bloodshed, from all this chaos within the society. If we would like actually to be frank with ourselves, no one can be satisfied with such environment at all. No one can enjoy killing or bloodshed or war and fighting each other for years. No one, unless there is some problem in his head. Otherwise, it can't be accepted at all, at any time. So people were really suffering from all these diseases in their life. The Prophet, peace be upon him, with his message, was part of the solution. He would never be part of the problem by spreading and continuing the wars with other nations and societies at all. So the idea of initiating battles and wars was not there at all. And conveying the message of Islam can't be started and established by using force or war at all, because it needs to be conveyed some sort of peaceful environment, and this peaceful environment can't be there by starting new wars and conflicts based on faith or religion. That's why we don't see at all the concept or the term of holy war, which means that religion is the main factor of this war at all. In Islam, all the battles in his life, Badr, Uhud, all these battles were in defensive nature more than anything else, not to spreading Islam, but to protect these three fundamental concepts. Otherwise, the way of da'wah or conveying the message of Islam should be peaceful, should be through letters, through as he was doing and sending letters to kings of Egypt, of Persia, of Roman Empire, all these areas. Why? Because this is the right way to convey the message of Islam, not by using force. Building peace and promoting its values were apparent in the life of the Prophet after his death as well, in the conduct of the princes and khulafa who ruled after him, because they realized how this message should be established in the mind of the people all around the world. And this accomplishment, building peace and promoting these values, is really great. It can't be compared to gaining new territories or wealth or at all. That's why we may understand why Muslims, when they opened new territories, why did they leave all these lands in the hands of people, in the hands of the real inhabitants of these lands? Because they did not come actually to take their lands or their money or their wealth. They came to protect and to introduce these three values. They came to convey the message of Islam. But the acceptance or rejection of Islam is something else. It's up to those people, to those individuals and societies to accept or reject. It's the freedom of religion which have been guaranteed by God in many verses in the Quran. لا إكراه في الدين. No coercion whatsoever in religion. No one can force anyone to turn to Islam or to another faith. And this value must be protected. And it was actually before Islam, it was violated. And we can see many examples in that perspective. For example, Orthodox Christians in the Roman Empire suffered from the bigotry of the emperor there, who confiscated their churches and forced them to follow his beliefs. The Orthodox faith was considered illegal in 451, and its followers in Mesopotamia suffered at the hands of the official church and revolted against the Roman occupiers. When the Islamic State opened and began to be opened by Futuhat, the Orthodox Christians consider it as liberation from Byzantine. Why? Because they suffered a lot. And we may ask here, then why Muslims started to convey the message of Islam? Because they realized that those people, those nations, were suffering a lot under the rule of the Roman Empire. They came to them, and when they came to them and they opened these lands, they left all these lands in their hands, because they didn't come to take their wealth or their lands or their money or their resources. They did not come as invaders. They came to convey the message, to protect these values, to show the message of the real Islam and Muslims. That's why we see many historians like Sigrid Honka, for example. She wrote a book about Muslims and Arabs when they opened these territories. And she was talking about how people of these lands welcomed Muslims because they look at them as if they are liberating them from the Roman or Byzantine rule at that time, which was far from these three values: justice, freedom, equality. So they look at Muslims as if they are the one who are going to save them. That's why they helped them in opening these lands. Why? Because Muslims at that time, they were very close to the teachings of Islam in general. And they were trying to reflect the message of Islam in their behavior, in their conduct, in their character, in their morals. So they opened the hearts of people before they opened the land. They opened their hearts by their morals, high morals, based on justice, equality, and freedom. looking at humanity as one big family, as the Quran was teaching them, transferring this concept to other nations, which when we look at it, definitely it's more advanced than any other concept at that time. The same course was followed by the second Caliph, Umar, who granted the people of Jerusalem a commitment safeguarding their lives, their churches, their properties. He pledged that their churches would not be occupied, destroyed at all. He assured them that no one would be harmed because of his religion, and that no one would be forced to abandon his religion. All these teachings were established by whom? By the Prophet, peace be upon him. Muslims look at these teachings as great values that should be defended and protected by them.